Hey guys, how's it going? So on this channel we talk a lot about CE-5, contact and contact work. So I wanted to make a video to describe CE-5 in the clearest way possible. So what is CE-5? Believe it or not, I get this question a lot, and people want to know. So CE-5 is a close encounter of the fifth kind, and that is going off the scale that was created by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, which describes the different degrees and kinds of close encounters, with extraterrestrial beings, is what we're talking about here. Extraterrestrial beings and UFOs. So you have the close encounter of the first kind, the second kind, the third kind. The fourth was added by somebody other than Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And of course the fifth, which we're talking about here, was added in early 1990s by Dr. Stephen Greer, and that is CE-5. And CE-5 is generally a human-initiated contact. I say generally because there are degrees of CE-5. The first degree being a human-initiated contact, where a human will use the CE-5 protocols wittingly or unwittingly, meaning they might just be using intention, consciousness, and different forms to achieve the contact. And there is the second degree, which would be if if you are out and you happen to see an alleged UFO or craft, extraterrestrial craft, and you interacted with it in some way, whether it be flashing lights, you flash a light to it and it flashes back. You think something and the craft responds in a way. Say if you think, oh, I wonder if it could stop, and it stops. Or in cases here in the Hudson Valley, they've described where somebody saw the craft and they said, oh, it started to move away. And they're like, oh, I wish it would come back. And the craft indeed came back. And that was actually noted by Dr. J. Allen Hynek in the book Night Siege, the Hudson Valley UFO Wave. So, for the most part, that is CE-5 in simple form. It's a close encounter of the fifth kind. And it can also take place if the human initiates it, or they happen to see a UFO and they initiate the contact back with the alleged extraterrestrial craft, and there's a back and forth communication and acknowledgement in one form or another. Usually if you see a UFO, it's not by accident, so take note of that. And also take note that a lot of these encounters, UFOs, extraterrestrials, all of them really, but especially in CE-5, the component of high strangeness, which involves consciousness and, for the most part, unexplainable phenomena. Just very strange, bizarre things that take place in these kind of interactions due to the nature of the extraterrestrial reality, which is part of a much greater reality that we're awakening to as a civilization. Of course, there are people here on this planet who have been aware of this for thousands of years, but it is becoming the collective consciousness now, where eventually within the next some odd years, maybe even if it's 100 years, that this stuff is going to be common sense, or it's going to be the general consensus, mainstream. So the things like consciousness, we depending on how attuned you are, but even regardless of that, we're always tapping into things like extrasensory perception, telepathy. We're always involved in this, whether we realize it or not. These kind of subtle senses, they're always going on. we're naturally that way, I think, as Enrique Villanueva said. And it's just a matter of us being aware of when it's happening, and from that point, getting used to that feeling and being able to realize when you're doing that, which is going to be useful for you engaging in CE-5, because you may receive an intuition or some kind of message during these CE-5s, but that's another thing. For the most part, that's CE-5 in a nutshell. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. If you have questions, let me know and I'll address them. But you can just Google CE-5. You can find Dr. Greer's work on CE-5. There's plenty of great writing he's done on it, especially in his first book. He basically lays it out in written form as clear as possible. And there's also the CSETI manual, which you can download as a PDF online too, which is extremely descriptive. So I hope that made sense to everybody. Thanks.